the heart of it.
Roy West kicking in towards the centre.
A distinctly Tasmanian conversation.
I can feel what it will be like when Tassie plays his first game, and I just...
Lynch gathers, he's got loose men everywhere, but he decides to have a pop shot, and it's an absolute ripper!
200 goals for Peter Hudson. What a fantastic effort.
How did he do that? Bear kick finishes off in style.
Up towards half forward, Stewart flying over the top. Oh, pulled in a beautiful mark.
Well done from Scott. Afterwards, he's got the first goal. Has it gone?
Nichols has had the big ruck with it. Oh! Crosswell!
Welcome to the heart of it. I'm Alistair Nicholson. Today, a rising star in the AFL coaching landscape, a one-time Tasmanian player who became a State League senior coach at the age of just 24, winning back-to-back premierships with North Launceston. Zane Littlejohn is following a similar path to fellow Tasmanians Chris Fagan and Brendan Bolton, defying the traditional path to the AFL coach's box, usually an environment reserved for those who have played at the highest level. Originally from the northwest coast, where his father was the Sheffield policeman, Littlejohn started his AFL coaching journey at Brisbane and is now a key member of the coaching staff at Hawthorn, a club much like himself, on a rapid rise. This is Zane Littlejohn's Tasmanian football story.
Outdoors, fishing, kicking the footy, playing cricket. There's always cricket in the summer, footy in the winter. Heaps of fun growing up.
When you think about it, those sports, cricket, summer, footy, winter, I know the landscape's changed a little bit, but they were so much a part of your formative years, weren't they?
Hugely. Yeah, I remember, and one of my probably greatest moments of my junior sporting career growing up was actually playing cricket with my old man. He probably wasn't capable to play footy at my level back then, but I was able to play cricket with Dad, which was always one of my special moments. And I guess that's what sport gives you, the opportunity to do that.
Set the scene. So your earliest footy experiences, what comes to your mind when you think about your very first sort of interaction with the game?
Playing juniors at Latrobe. I remember we had two teams. It was Demons Blue and Demons Red. Playing footy, I think, is it Meercroft Park in Devonport? Playing footy there and playing with some great friends, just loving the game. Cold, wet winter mornings at Meercroft Park, and just love running around chasing the footy. And they're the memories that come. I was actually a bit late. I was probably under 10s when I started playing footy. Never did kick, never did any of that. I was just kicking the footy at home, and then decided that I don't know what happened and why it happened, but Mum and Dad threw me in the footy, and under 10s at Latrobe. So that was the first memories.
Northwest Coast has been a really rich breeding ground when you think about it over the years for all sorts of great sports people, but footy, Baldock obviously is the most notable, but you think about the Rawlings brothers and Richardson and Birchall. What sort of names do you remember hearing about and following the careers of and even playing with in those early years?
I was very lucky actually. My dad was the police officer at Sheffield.
Had half of them in the lockup, did he?
Half in the lockup, but more importantly, had a great relationship with Daryl. So I was lucky to spend a fair bit of time with Daryl as a young kid growing up, and at the time probably didn't appreciate the severity of who Daryl Baldock was. I knew, and playing footy at Latrobe and the Mr Magic poster stuck up there at Latrobe Footy Club, but was lucky enough to go around and enjoy a cup of tea with, I was only sort of 18 at the time, or even younger, 16, 17, 18 at the time, and enjoying a cup of tea with Margaret, his wife, and Daryl, and just sitting down and just talking footy and talking horses with him. And I was only going through my filing cabinet the other day at home and still got a letter from Margaret. I used to sit next to her at the Latrobe B&F every year. She always asked to sit next to me, and at the time I just didn't understand the severity and how lucky I was in that moment. And so Daryl was always one that I've always admired, and I think any Tasmanian footballer knows Daryl Baldock and the story. But obviously grew up playing with Grant Birchall, reconnected with Birch the last couple of years at Brisbane, which was fantastic. Who else? Toby Nankervis coaching Toby. Even the likes of Jay Lockhart, who was lucky enough to make the Melbourne list eventually. Yep. So players like that, obviously. But there's the one thing, and Fags and I always talk about this when we were obviously at Brisbane together. It didn't really matter who who you were and where you were from Tassie, you always had a connection somewhere along the line. Oh, you know so-and-so. It's just, and it related back to footy most of the time.
I remember going to watch Devonport and Burnie every time they played. Our parents would drop us off at Penguin every home game and see us at the end of the game. But if the Northwest Derby was on, we were always at that. Do you remember going to games and some good attendances and things?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first, I still remember, I'm going to say it was South Launceston. I'm not sure what grand final was in the NTFL it was still then. I still remember the hill at Latrobe as a young kid just walking past it, walking around. Because as a kid, you walk around, kick the footy. Yeah. The whole, I guess the crowd and all that type of stuff you experience. And that was really cool. And that's sort of then when my connection came to wanting to play footy, senior footy at Latrobe and all that. Because just as a kid, I was happy to play footy. I didn't care where it was or what it was doing. Footy in my hand and away I went. I remember Mum saying I slept with the footy. So when I started playing senior footy at Latrobe, you were taught to hate Devonport. That was the number one team you hated, you never liked them. We could never beat Devonport, and that was when they were really successful under Ned and that. So it was sort of just ingrained in our blood when you play at Latrobe that you didn't like Devonport.
So were you coming through the under-18 pathway system in Tassie as well at that point?
Yep, yeah. So I remember playing. I still remember I was 14. Yeah, 14. I was playing under-18s at Latrobe. And I was lucky enough to make the Tassie under-16 team. We travelled to WA, played under Glenn Frame, which was really an unbelievable experience. And that was probably the first time I thought, this footy is what I love. Like, this is generally, because I was always footy cricket and I played state cricket as well. And I thought, footy's probably where I'm going to end up. And the path I wanted to try and chase and obviously ideally get drafted. And then, I was playing under-18s at Latrobe. And I remember on my 15th birthday, the runner came out to me, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh, do you want to play under twos?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was getting that reserves game like that when you used to go and sit on the bench in the reserves. I was like, "Oh, this is unreal. Like, I'm playing reserves on my 15th birthday." And then lucky enough the next year, I made my senior debut for Latrobe and then I went on to play Mariners footy, under-18 footy under Haggis, Hamish Ogilvy, which was really cool. So right through that pathway, but obviously through the Latrobe Footy Club pathway as well, to play some under-18s, some reserves, and then obviously some senior footy there as well, which was really cool.
And then you go to university in Launceston. You did teaching at university, is that right? And that takes you to North Launceston Footy Club?
Spot on, yeah. So I was lucky enough to play 1 year in the VFL with Tassie. We didn't have an overly successful year, but it was just I learned so much about myself in that, and I had to get super fit to try and, 1, get on the list, and then 2, to get a game. And I remember lucky enough getting a game, and I ended up playing 2 games that year, and I actually played really well. I fought in my first game and joined. I tell everyone this, all the young players here now that I coach, that I joined the illustrious club in the VFL. My first kick was a goal, so which was really cool. And I still remember the late Matty Westfield was handballed to me outside 50, Bell Reef, beach end. Open goal square, bounced top of the goal screen, went through. But so I was lucky enough to still play at Latrobe that time, and because I was training with the VFL. And then my second year, I decided, well, I'm probably not going to play VFL footy. Just the commitment, you sort of was where the real fine line came. You have to be pretty fair dinkum. And we hadn't had a great year at VFL, so a few mates of mine who I was living with, Sammy Wish-Wilson, Darren Crawford at uni, decided that they were going to do the same. So we headed off to North Lonnie and had a chat with them, and that's sort of where the journey at North Lonnie started. And I was pretty fortunate to land at such a great club and with a great history, and met some very special people there.
I'll never forget the day, you speak of Matthew Westfield, the day he took out the goalpost at the other end of the ground at Bell Reef, knocked the goalpost Lee Matthews style out of the ground, and it hit Luke McGuan in the shoulder. I think he dislocated his shoulder. But funnily enough, the club you now coach, Box Hill, was the team you first played against, wasn't it, in the VFL?
It was my first game, which is amazing how things just pan out. I was lucky enough, started on the wing, interchange side at Bell Reef, and I remember looking to the side and there's Joel Smith, who obviously ex-St Kilda Hawthorn player, coming back from injury, and lining up on him, and we lost the game. But after the game, all these young Tassie kids were running on the ground to get autographs, and I'm looking, they're coming to me, and silly old me, it was running straight to Joel Smith, who actually, they've seen him on the TV, which was unbelievable. And I remember they had Josh Kennedy, who obviously went on to play at Sydney, who was on the Hawthorn list at the time, playing in the midfield. So it was a pretty surreal day to sort of think where I'd come from. And I knew my draft aspirations had probably moved on, but still to have that opportunity to play at that level was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that period, when you think about it as well, talk about some of the players who were down in Tassie playing against the Tassie team, and I know it tapered off late, but that VFL team for a while was huge. Big crowds for finals, a lot of interest in that Tassie VFL team, and that's a couple of rungs beneath where we're going to see a Tasmanian team in the near future.
Absolutely, and the beauty about it was I'd been to some of those VFL games, mainly the ones when they used to play out of it, or York Park or Royal Stadium, but I travelled to Hobart a couple of times. Mum would take me down and watch a few games, and the crowds were awesome. I still remember the photo of the boys walking off after their first win of VFL footy when they got back in. Was, it's always, as a young kid, Tassie, and I'm a bit of a tragic where I love thinking about sport. I love sport. I'm a jock. I say that all the time, so I was always love walking around, when you're able to see those photos and that as well is pretty cool.
Yeah, Carlton at Princes Park of all places was that first win, and I remember a fresh-faced Ian Callanan and Brett Gapin and those kind of guys running around. We'll talk more about the Tassie AFL team in a moment, because I'm really interested in your thoughts around what it can do for coaching and aspiring coaches and high performance down there. But you mentioned that your mum used to take you down from the Northwest Coast to Hobart to watch VFL games. I talked to my mates on the Northwest Coast and they're like, absolutely, I'll take my family down to watch Tassie play in Hobart or Launceston or wherever it is when the AFL teams come in. Do you think that's likely, that there'll be good support from the coast? People will be prepared to travel to go and watch the AFL team?
I think so. I think it will. I can't speak for every individual in Tassie or anything like that, but I know there'd be the diehards who would love to go and watch it, regardless of where they live. They'll be there watching Tassie play, and we have people, obviously I'm here coaching at Box Hill now, but we played a game at Wonthaggi, which is, an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and we have people from Box Hill who travel to watch us because they love our footy club, and I've got no doubt that Tassie will have the same type of supporters regardless of where we play. So
initially the dream is to see how far you can go as a player. When do you first arrive at the idea that coaching's something that appeals to you?
So I was lucky enough in my first year, my second year at North Launceston, we had a development series game, a team that we had to pick. So it was an under-15 team, sort of zoned-based team. And I sort of said to Thane Brady, and because I was a teacher, I thought, this is a good opportunity. I'd done some work at AFL Tasmania previously and all that as well, that I might, can I coach this team? And we're sort of just getting players from Scottsdale, Lilydale, North Launceston itself, Rochely, that sort of area, our zone, and get an under-15 team together, and we'd play the other teams, state league teams, their zones, and so they had like Brad Cox-Goodyear in it. So Brad Cox-Goodyear was my captain of that game, Zach Burt, all these, Toby Nankervis, all these kids who at the time I had no idea sort of where this was going to end up. And anyway, that all happened, and then end of that year, we didn't, so in our first year back in the TSL, North Launceston actually didn't have an under-18 team. And I said to Thane, look, if I can get an under-18 team together and the club supported, can I coach it? And he's like, let's do it. Let's try and get a team together. And we ended up with the help of some people within our zone, but Thane himself, Tony Young Jr., worked their backsides off to get an under-18 team up and going, and they offered me, and they said, true to their word, offered me to coach it. And I was playing senior footy at the same time under Paul Atkins, and then obviously coaching the under-18s as well. And we went on to, lucky, I feel, to win the premiership in the under-18s that year, the state league premiership. And again, it had Brad Cox-Goodyear, these type of players are running around in it, which was really kind of cool. And then I went on obviously to coach the team again the year after, and we just missed the finals. But then within that year, Jeff Dunn had taken over from Axe, who coached the year before, and I started to do a little bit more coaching with Dunny, and I'd stopped playing at that time because I was just at the end of that weekend mentally fatigued from coaching and playing. And at that stage, what they started to do is start to promote the juniors. So the under-18s used to play second, so it was reserves first, under-18s, and then I was playing senior footy. So I'd leave at 3/4 time, and I was going to a game thinking, how are we going out there, trying to look out the change room door, how are we actually going? And lucky enough, so I was just really fatigued. And Thane came to me and said, well, mate, we don't want to lose you from footy, so how about you have a year off and you just coach at Colts and do some senior coaching with Jeff? And Jeff was obviously really open to that as well, and I was very lucky. And so I did that and thought, well, I'm only going to be 23, 24, I'm still young enough to go back and play. I hate it, I'm missing footy. I've never gone back and played. And lucky enough, Jeff moved on, and as he sort of resigned from the position, he said to Thane, I think Zane's ready to do the job, and that's sort of how it came about. And then Thane put me through the process, still really diligently. Didn't just go, here's a job, made me go through how I'd coach, what I'd do. I mean, because really, I'm now going to coach my mates, which was one of the biggest challenges I had, and that's sort of where coaching took off, and away I went.
Can you remember any of the things that you said in that process with Thane Brady?
I still remember that one of the main things that was that stood to me was I just wanted to be true to my word. So they're my mates, but we sort of tried to put things in place that I'd put the football club first, and that sort of was the reality of what I had to try and do. And I struggled with that naturally as a young coach at 24 to try and balance, your mateship to what the club expectations are, and that was a challenge. But I had great support around me to help realign me. I went off path at times, there's no doubt about that, and I was lucky enough to have great support to help me get back online. And the sort of rest was history after that. So
ultimately, it leads to 2 premierships as a senior coach at North Launceston. Obviously, fond memories of that. But then the next phase comes when you go to the Brisbane Lions. Can you tell me how that came about? What the opportunity was like, and what an exciting time.
Unbelievable. So it's really funny because the year before that, so it was end of 2015, we obviously won back-to-back. I actually got a phone call from the Essendon Football Club. And they as Matty Egan at the time, who was head of development, he said, "Look, mate, we've got a position in our development space." And it was literally a week after I just signed a new contract with North Launceston. And I don't know if it was stupid or was it the right idea, and it's worked out really well for me now. And I actually said, "Look, mate, no. My morals tell me I haven't finished a job yet at North Launceston. I've got a bit of work I still feel like I've got to do. I've literally just signed. Thank you. I'd love to, but it's my dream to work in AFL full time. But my morals tell me right now that it's not right." And it's funny because end of that year, I was actually standing at the North Launceston bar having a beer with Brendan Bolton, and he obviously knew my aspirations, and he said, "Mate, it still rings in my ears now, just make sure you're ready when your time comes." And I think in the back of my mind I had that conversation. I didn't feel like I was genuinely quite ready to step into an AFL environment and give what I needed to give. I turned them down. It wasn't the job, but turned them down in applying for the position. And Matty Egan was so impressed with that. He said, "Wow, no one ever says no to AFL. Mate, we love that. Would you be interested in just coming over and spending some time with us?" So I did, went and spent some time with Essendon at the time. He flew me back over and I spent some time. He was coaching the VFL at the time as well. I spent some time in the Essendon VFL program. And then from that sort of grew a bit of confidence that maybe, okay, I am going to be ready. I want to make sure. And that sort of 2016 year, we lost the grand final at North Launceston, but I sort of spent a lot of time with Thane and that positioning myself to be ready with my time did come again. And I thought, maybe I've shot myself in the foot here, and it didn't come. But I was still young enough and understood that, this is a process. It's not sort of just the one in all in type thing. So, and then I was working at Brooks High School at the time, sitting in my office and my phone rang. I didn't know the number and I thought, I won't answer it. I've got to go to class here in a minute. So I left it. I came back and I thought it's probably just telemarket or something. Anyway, I left a message on my phone. It was Matty Francis. So Matty Francis was the head of footy at Brisbane at the time. And hey Zane, it's Matty Francis from Brisbane Lions. Be interested in having a chat about potential role that we might have at the football club next year. And I thought, just picked it up. Yep, no worries. I rang him back and said hi, and sort of all evolved from there. And then the next minute, Justin Lepage calls me and, "Mate, we'd love to get you over to have a chat." So this was sort of mid-August. So we were about to embark on another finals campaign with North Launceston. We just played Launceston at Windsor Park that week, and obviously we had the wood over at Lonnie at that stage. So we got the win over them, and jumped on an aeroplane that night and headed up to Brisbane for an interview, and had the interview on the Monday, flew home Monday night, got off the aeroplane at the Lonnie airport and had a job offer in my email, and that was sort of just how it all came about. That quickly. So it must have impressed them with something I said, I don't know. But and then there was another whirlwind of emotion. Unfortunately, Lepper lost his job, and I'm like, who's going to get the head coaching role? And then I heard Chris Fagan's name. I thought, this could be a great result. Yeah, unbelievable. And then lucky, Faye's got a point, and I'm like, I don't know if I've got a job here still. And picked up the phone straight away, mate, and said, can't wait, which was really nice. Once you heard that, and we had our second child due in October, so my wife's sweating bullets as well, and it's just panned out really nicely. And what a great mentor to go and learn off and grow my coaching experiences, and not just Fags, but all the other coaches up there as well. And I've been very lucky to learn off all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about transitioning from a player at North Launceston to being a coach and the challenges of that. What's it like going into an AFL environment for the first time? And I guess almost trying to earn your stripes in a way.
It's so funny because I still remember the first comment when Fags introduced me to everyone. We were at Cusack in Queensland, athletics track, because the boys are doing a time trial. And he gets up there and goes, "Oh, this is Zane, he's our new development coach. Hopefully he's the next Brendan Bolton." I'm like, "Oh, pressure? I'm happy just to be myself at the moment." So, and then I was just really, you're coaching Tom Rockcliffe, Dane Beams, all Australian premiership players, and Dane Zorko, these type of guys. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I still remember, and it's a quote I live by now as a coach, regardless if I'm a development or a senior coach at any club. And Dane Beams, mate, we don't care what you know until we know you care. So I live my life off that now when I'm coaching, and just to make sure the players know that I genuinely care about them. And when I heard that, I ended up, I still remember there was a meeting, so 2017, we had a pre-season meeting. I spoke up in the meeting, and after the meeting again, Dane Beams walks up to me and goes, "Mate, listen. We listen to when you speak, mate, because it obviously means something." And from that point on, that sort of made me feel really, really comfortable. And I had a great support in Mitch Hahn, Scotty Borlace, and Paul Henriksen, who were our development team. And we just had a really nice mix of, we all bounced off each other with how we sort of taught. And myself, Scotty, and Paul were all teachers, and Mitch was trained to be a teacher. So we just had a really nice balance of how, and that just helped my confidence. And then I ended up building a nice mentor coaching Dale Tapping, who was coaching our midfield at Brisbane at the time, and my confidence just grew off the back of that. And there's no doubt though, and I still taught the face, when you haven't played the game, there's always at the elite level, there's always a little bit of self-doubt is if you're able to produce at that level. And but I guess the support Faze gave me with showing me how he just pushed through that, and he said, "I still have that, mate." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so it's okay to have a bit of that," and that sort of strives us to continue to be the best we can.
Brisbane's on the up, very clearly on the up during the period that you're there, and you're making big finals and finishing top four. What ultimately sways you to move to Melbourne?
Yeah, well, and lucky enough, it's very interesting in the fact that when we first started at Brisbane, it's very similar to now where I am at Hawthorn. We lucky enough won the NEAFL premiership at that stage at VFL level, and then 2019 we won another VFL or NEAFL premiership. And I remember Faze openly saying to us, the coaching group, "We'll win a NEAFL premiership before we win an AFL one." So they've won two now, so Faze has better hurry up and get that AFL one. But yeah, so I've sort of been in the development space there at Brisbane for a long time, and then moved a little bit sideways in the academy when COVID hit, and really enjoyed that, and got back into, I ended up coaching the academy team in the under 18 boys space and under 16 boys space, and so got in the role of coaching my own team again. Oh, this is me again. Like, I remember Faye saying, when Greg Swan called him, "Mate, you're a footy manager or a coach?" He goes, "I've always been a coach," and I sort of have that in my head too. I think I love the coach. I love the development space. That is my real wheelhouse, I feel, and my real strength. But I've always had the itch to want to coach my own team again. And then out of the blue, I was still in contract at Brisbane. I got a phone call from Andy Collins at Hawthorn, and just sort of asked if I'd be interested in having a chat, and sort of the process went from there. And when I had the opportunity to coach my own team again and do all that, and be involved with a young up and coming group like Hawthorn, really excited me again to be, sort of see where that journey can go.
You are following the Brendan Bolton path after all, mate.
Well, that's funny,
when I think about it, Sam Mitchell replaced by Zane Littlejohn. It's a really big opportunity for you, and part of you, what is clearly a path that you are on towards perhaps being an AFL senior coach one day. How strong does that passion burn within you? Yeah,
I'll never, because we ask our players wherever we are as coaches to be the best they can be. So I'll never strive, I would never die away from that fact. I want to be the best I can be. And if that's me being a senior coach at AFL level, that would be unbelievable. And I love that. And I openly said to Faze, I remember, it's funny these memories you have, but standing at the traffic lights, crossing a road at the Gabba there, and I said to him, "Mate," he said, I know I'm not in your back pocket every day because I'm development, he's a senior coach, but I'm learning so much off you, mate, and how he's able to manage a group and manage people has been really really exciting to see, but probably gave me the confidence that maybe one day that I could do this. I've got a lot to learn. I'm not there by any means, and I'm not standing here saying right now that I'll be an AFL senior coach, but would I like to be one? Bloody oath. I'd love to be an AFL senior coach. I'm not going to hide behind that fact, and I don't think we tell our players not to hide behind reaching their ultimate as well. So that's a goal of mine. But I've got a lot to learn, a lot of work to do to get there. But I'm in a great environment now, which allows me to grow and learn and make mistakes and get better every single day, which is really exciting. And I think the Box Hill Hawthorn program that I'm involved in now has great history of that. We mentioned Bolts, we mentioned Chris Newman, these type of players who have been on in the Box Hill program and now gone on into senior coaching roles. So it's pretty exciting.
Let's talk about Tassie and the AFL licence. So, your first reaction to the news that long-held dream had finally been realised and both men's and women's teams would be entering the AFL?
Unreal. Yeah, I was absolutely stoked. Even my son was like, I said, buddy, we're going to have an AFL team. Ooh, Tassie? Yes. And then I remember him running to tell his sister, who couldn't care less, she's only 6 years old, but Albert, Tassie's got an AFL team. I said, well, we don't have it yet, mate. It's a few years away before it gets on the field. It was really, really exciting. And then I actually text Robert Shaw, because I know the work Shaw had done behind the scenes in that space as well, and just mentioned it's a special day for Tasmania, not just Tassie footy, but Tasmania in itself, and to have both an AFL and an AFLW licence is pretty cool. To be honest, I didn't know if we'd ever get it in my lifetime, and to see the excitement of my son when he spent 2 years in Tasmania, but he's always a Tasmanian. Once you're born and bred there, you're always Tasmanian. So to see that excitement in his face just almost put me back to when I was his age, 9 years old, to when I played my first year of footy at Latrobe, as I mentioned. I imagine that team being announced back then, how excited I would have been to think, wow, that could be, I had aspirations just to play VFL, but now these kids are going to have aspirations to play AFL for their state, which is pretty cool. I get excited, I get goosebumps now even thinking about Tassie having their own AFL team and running out there in that first game. Is going to be pretty special.
It'll be magic. What about now the aspirational coach? Did even a skerrick of your mind go to, hang on, maybe there's an opportunity down the track in the coaching space? As much as you rightly say, there's a lot to achieve and a lot to perfect before you're in the frame for a position like that. But do you dare have that, almost that kid dreaming to play AFL? You have that dream again?
It'd be silly not to. But I've always, and I openly said this to a few of my mates jokingly, go, oh yeah, here you go, you can move down. And I want to be, if that opportunity ever arose, I want to make sure that I'm the best person for it, not just because I'm Tasmanian. Absolutely, that's a great connection, and I'm Tasmanian, that's fantastic, but I want to be the best person for that job, whatever job it may be, whether it's head of development, whether it's just a development coach. I want to make sure I'm getting that role because I'm the best fit for that role. But to be involved with the program down there would be great, but there's so many amazing Tasmanian people, so many amazing coaches, both male and female, who deservedly could fill the roles down there, whatever that looks like. But did your mind wander a little bit one day to think, wow, just to walk out being a coach for Tasmanian team at AFL level? Yeah, it would, but I'm just so excited to see where it could end up. I don't know, it's a pretty special time to be a part of. So if something originates one day where I am a part of the group, which would be fantastic, but like I said to you previously, mate, I just want to be the best I can be with whatever role I do now, and where that gets me, who knows.
One frustrating element of the whole conversation around whether Tassie would get a team, to me, was often, no one will want to go and play there. Players won't go back home. Who's going to want to stay in Tasmania? The same applies to coaches. Do you think these would be coveted opportunities, that people would look at Tassie and go, hey, this is a real opportunity to be part of something special from a coaching perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. I can't see how, again, there's only 18 senior coaches, and then what they've got, say, 6 coaches underneath them from assistants to development. So they're not roles that are just handed out. They're pretty special roles, great opportunity. There's people in Tasmania now, like the roles that Jeremy Webley's doing with the Devils now, what's his progression now for him? Hey, there's a light for him now that maybe if he doesn't want to pack up his family and move, there's a top opportunity potentially in 5 years' time to join the Tassie program at AFL, VFL level. So that's great, but also the expats who have left the state to come back, or genuine people. I think if you were to ring up I don't know, Matty Nicks 4 or 5 years ago, would he, and there's a Tassie opportunity, would he take that role? Absolutely he would have. Like, it's a head coach of an AFL team, and there's only going to be 19 of them. So it's a great opportunity. I don't think the landscape of where you live will play too much of a deterrent on anyone to be involved with it.
It shouldn't be underestimated, the sacrifice that people like you mentioned Hamish Ogilvie before, to be a recruiter. He can't do that at the highest level in Tasmania. All those assistant coaches as well. I think of guys like Jade Rawlings, who went through multiple assistant coaching roles, ultimately did coach at senior level with Richmond. But the fact you had to leave to get that opportunity, and what do you think about that no longer existing potentially?
Oh, unreal. Like I sort of talk about Jez, like he's got a young family now. He doesn't, if footy is his aspiration to continue to move forward, and I think of myself back at that, at the end of 2016 when I knew I was packing up my family to move, or my second child wasn't even born yet. Like I'm going through that stress and worrying about that, and knowing that, hey, well, there's potentially, drive 2 hours down the road to work. Like, it's not, rather than fly 2.5 hours to another state, would have been pretty, I'm sure my wife would have appreciated that a little bit more. So would have been pretty special. So to have that opportunity for all our, not just, and I want to make sure it's not just obviously our male counterparts, or it's also our female coaches as well, to aspire to be AFLW head coaches or AFL coaches, and that's probably the thing. I talk about only 19 senior coaches. There's so many other roles underneath that, and having been involved obviously at Brisbane and now at Hawthorn, how vital those roles are to help the club be successful.
I know people like Peter Hudson and Robert Shaw as well. They talk about this. Yes, this is the pinnacle for Tasmanian football, but it has to have flow-on benefits to every layer of football in the state, right down to the grassroots. How significant do you think the injection of additional funds will be for high performance in Tassie and lifting the standard right across all facets of not only football but sport in the state?
Huge, and that's a mindset shift that we've got to get down now at the lower levels that within Tassie is high performance, and I think if we can shift that mindset to, and having the funding to support that will play a huge role. I only use the example here at Box Hill. Like, we obviously have Hawthorn players play with us, but we have local community coaches come down to our sessions and be involved. So they're going back to their local levels and providing that. And that's them shifting their mindset now. They go, I'm just a local coach. No, well, I can still take high performance elements away to my local community club and help provide a high performance environment as best I can down there, which is, if that's going to filter back down into Tassie, the lower levels will automatically, their minds will change, and the mindset, will change to hopefully having that high performance mindset. And when you've got the funds that continue to support that, I think it's massive. And if I was coaching North Launceston, I would have lived down trying to knock on the doors of the Tassie Devils, trying to get involved just to spend a day down there or whatever, or be down there watching them training and picking up a new drill that I can take back, or seeing, even I got a great phone call the other day from my old club, North Launceston, their head trainer wanting to come over and spend time with our trainers. Just something so simple that we take for granted probably in Tassie, in Melbourne, for these Tasmanians. We just want to see how they go about it at that level. What great development, and therefore it's only going to help our players, both male and female, back in Tassie. So, which is really exciting. But and we probably take for granted over here because it's just at our doorstep.
Yeah.
We can walk down to an AFL game or AFL training session, lean over the fence and watch what the trainers do. We're down in Tassie, they don't get that.
In the backyard, it's so visible. Kids going to school can see their heroes during the week, not as fly-in, fly-out kind of operations. But in terms of the coaching and the high performance, the pleasing thing for me when I look at it is the investment in all regions. So we're Northwest Coasters, there's going to be investment I can't believe that my little town of Penguin will have so much investment in football. I never would have thought that was possible when I was a kid, even though the little town had produced some great players over the years. But Launceston will have investment, Hobart will have investment. So this is a broad state thing that everyone can benefit from.
Massively, it's huge. And I think, I'm sure we all get these comments from the mainland people, how will the North-South rivalry be? And I honestly have a firm belief that it won't be there. We have guys now play on my Box Hill list here who travel 2.5 hours for training at Box Hill, and they go past clubs to come here, or they go, so that will be, because they're young kids who aspire to be the best they can be. They know they get the opportunity to play with AFL footballers I think it's so exciting to know that, Meercroft Park I talk about, playing footy there, that, there's those facilities around, like, you talk about Penguin, Devonport, those sort of areas, and then up to Lonnie, to Hobart. There's going to be great opportunities for our young people to be involved on great surfaces. I jokingly say here, the surfaces in Tassie are miles above anywhere else in Australia. And I remember when we were at Brisbane, Fags used to always go on camps to Tassie because the surfaces were amazing. And you just don't get that elsewhere in Australia. So it's pretty exciting that all regions are going to get that. And all our young people will get great opportunity to be a part of that as well and use those.
Fags clearly never took them to his old stomping ground of Queenstown.
Many stories there, many stories about the Queenstown, but probably not worth sharing here. But yeah, no, we never ventured that far.
Fantastic chatting to you. Just a couple of short, sharp ones to finish up. So just top of mind responses. Best Tasmanian footballer of all time?
Darryl Bulldog. Yeah, I was lucky enough to watch some of his highlights, which Mo pulled out for me and put on, and there was the old VCR still, so back then, which was pretty cool. And he was watching him bounce a football like a basketball was amazing. And at his height, to play centre forward was love the doc.
She's got an amazing scrapbook as well. She's a beautiful record keeper. Best footballer you played with or against, or even coached in Tasmania?
Probably Birch. Yeah, definitely. Birch was one I was lucky enough to play with and against, but just the higher the level, the better he got. He almost had to play AFL just to be the best he could be. If he didn't, you would have probably never reached his full potential, obviously. But Birch would be up there for me.
All right, now men's and women's. You've got the pick of the entire AFL men's and the entire AFLW. You can pick two players for the Tassie teams, pretending that they come in tomorrow, let's say. So of the current crop right now, who are you picking?
I'll go AFLW first, and I'm a bit biased with this in the fact, and Hawthorn won't like this, and probably Brisbane. I'm going to go with Greta Bodie for the AFLW and Natalie Grider. I think both right age, perfect, build a club around, great leaders and great bookends as well at AFLW, but one plays forward, one plays in defence. So that'd be my two I'd take and go and build off with the AFLW. In the men's space, I'm grabbing Toby Green. I'm taking Toes out of GWS. He knows how to build a club from there. He's been involved with that, but I think he's pretty special. And I reckon your big man's important, and I'm a bit biased with this, but I'm going to take Nank out of Richmond and get him to be the number one big man in there. And I reckon he'd be, he's obviously captain of Richmond at the moment, which is fantastic. And I only caught up with him last week, and he's really excited about. I think he'd love. It might be past his time, but I think he'd love to be involved with the Tassie team. It was now, so I'll bring Nank with me.
Name of the first Tasmanian coach?
First Tasmanian coach.
Kind of hoping you'd go somewhere a little more quickly than that.
I'd like to say, yeah, no. Look, as I mentioned, I'd love if an opportunity was to rise, but whether I'm going to be ready or not by that time, it's a big role. I've seen what Faze had to do. Sammy Mitchell had to go through as a senior coach, and who knows if I'm ready for it. But someone, I think, Bolts or someone again will be ready. He's in a great environment now at Collingwood, learning again a lot. It's just whether he wants to do that again, and he's been through it before. So I think Bolts would be a great fit.
Zane Littlejohn, terrific to chat to you. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Zane Littlejohn, just another example of a high-calibre Tasmanian who had to leave the state to pursue his ambitions in football. Who knows, we might just end up getting him back. There are plenty more inspiring Tasmanian stories in other episodes of The Heart of It. Royce Hart, Ian Stewart, Peter Hudson, Darren Pritchard, Mia King, Jeremy Howe, Max Brown and many more share their experiences. Check them out at tasmaniafc.com or subscribe to the podcast and enjoy a new episode every week. I'm Alistair Nicholson. Thanks for listening.